Hey everyone, Ryan here, or M&R Productions, with my review of the legendary 2015 LEGO Star Wars Slave 1, officially released on January 1st, 2015 for $200 US, the 75060. Slave 1 included 1,996 pieces, as well as 4 minifigs and a Han Solo and Carbonite, who we'll take a look at here momentarily. Back to that price though, released originally for $200, like I said, that's adjusted for inflation in 2021, about $240. But if you actually want one of these now, if you want one new in box, you're going to end up paying over $500. If you want one, it's going to cost you, and that's just the way it is, unfortunately. This set does have one of the most beautiful box arts of any LEGO Star Wars set ever. We have a sunset look in the clouds of Bespin with Cloud City looming in the background. It's just a gorgeous look. You'll also see the Ultimate Collector Series LEGO Star Wars seal in the bottom left, which was used during this time period. It wasn't used for all that many years, but for like 3 or 4 years, I think, it was quite common, and they put it on all the sets, and then they moved on to a different type of box art, because they just can't stay in one lane with LEGO Star Wars box art for like any subsection of anything. It just always has to be changing. Good problem to have, I guess. Here's the figures on the top with the Boba Fett, Han Solo and Carbonite, the Bespin Guard, and the Stormtrooper. Those are your bonus minifigures, as the designers would like you to think. You're paying for them. We do have the dimensions of the Slave 1 on top, so if you're wondering how big it is, how much space it might take up for you, there you go. And then flipping us around back, you can see it landed on Cloud City, which I think is pretty cool. And then you have a bunch of the features shown off over here. It's really awesome looking. And then something I never picked up on when I first got this set was a small bit of text down at the bottom of the box here, and it says exclusive building instruction included. I mean, I think that's true of literally every LEGO set ever. It comes with the instructions exclusively for the set that you're building. I am really confused as to why they felt that was important to write, but you know, good for them. So let's unbox this. Unboxing old expensive sets always hurts me on some level because I create such an attachment with them in the time that I have them and they're sealed. And it's like, oh man, I could keep this sealed on my shelf. Like, that totally happened to me with that Slave 1. I'm just not going to open it now. Like, I can't. But this one, I knew I had to do the job here, so let's see what's inside. It's always a crapshoot with some of these older sets, whether or not the instructions, like, I can never remember when they first brought in the cardboard for the instructions, but luckily they had already done it at this point. You can see a very large sticker sheet there. It's going to add a lot of detail to our Slave 1, and a very thick instruction book, that exclusive instruction book only with the UCS Slave 1. The instructions for the UCS Slave 1 are spectacular, keeping that same beautiful box art look. Inside, I've placed the sticker sheet just to give you an idea of how many stickers the final model used, as we'll get into the figures and the model in a second. It's got quite a bit about the design team for LEGO Star Wars, and of course a lot about the Slave 1. You can pause to read any particular part you'd like, but this is incredible. I mean, this was one of the first times they had done this. I don't think it was the first time they had done this on a UCS set, talking about the design process and everything, but this was in the early years of that, and it's really cool to see how much detail they go into about the Slave 1 and the process behind it, and just there's so much here that they talk about. They do a full-length Q&A about the Slave 1 and things like that. It's really cool to see. Nothing in particular that I'd like to highlight here, but I do remember really enjoying reading this back in 2015 when I first got the set, and you can see my original model up there. And then it just goes through different languages and things, and obviously just normal LEGO instructions otherwise, all the way to the end where it will give you the parts list for the set. I don't think there's any particularly interesting advertising or anything back here, but yeah, this thing is still a hefty manual for 2,000 pieces, but the finished model speaks for itself. Let's take a look at the figs and then the set. Our first and probably best figure in the set is Boba Fett. This is also probably one of the best Boba Fetts LEGO has ever made, especially at the time when this released. It was really only competing with the 2003 Cloud City Boba Fett, and this one really brought it with such an amazing amount of detail. So starting with the helmet, it looks great. Down on the torso print, side of the arms are printed as well, and underneath his little side cape here, you can see even a print on his left arm, which looks amazing. I think he might have had wrist rockets on there at the time. Also the Mandalorian sign there, just great all the way down to the foot. And just, yeah, I mean, there's not much I can say about this figure. It really speaks for itself. He does have a special blaster with a lightsaber hilt on the end. He's got his rangefinder on top of the helmet. If we move it down, you can see see it all there in front of the helmet. Just very nice looking rangefinder. Removing that helmet will reveal Boba Fett's face. Looks great underneath there. And he does have a jetpack, and I say this about everything, but the print underneath the jetpack is kind of wasted because the jetpack stays on. But that's what the back print looks like if you do remove the jetpack, and this Boba Fett figure is very fitting for a UCS set. Amazing. The Bespin Guard included is rather lovely. I love Bespin Guards, especially the one from the 2006 Slave one. I think that one's a little bit better because it has arm printing, if I remember correctly, but this one is fine as well. It isn't as over the top as the Boba Fett feels like for this UCS set, but nonetheless, it's a Bespin Guard and he looks great. One of their best Stormtroopers ever came in this set, and this ended up coming in quite a few other sets, but this is still probably peak LEGO Stormtrooper, or just about. Maybe the Imperial Inspection from 2005 had a better one, but this one looks amazing. I love how sharp a lot of the lines on him are. I just think it's a really good and appealing look, and it's not the Family Guy Stormtrooper, so you are actually able to turn the head at least a little bit. I mean, you can really actually turn it around. On the Family Guy Stormtrooper, you can't do more than just that, so this is nice. You actually get some realistic motion out of the Stormtrooper helmet more than nothing. And underneath you have the angry clone face because that's just what they typically would use for that once they got off the black heads of old. And then finally we have Han Solo, who is not in Carbonite, but he's about to be. He's got the flat hair because that's just what they use for the Carbonite piece, so they need it to match up. Nice torso print and everything, no leg printing, just a pretty basic figure. And underneath that second face is going to be him squinting basically, or having his eyes closed. Everything's kind of puckered up, ready to be frozen for gosh knows how long. And then of course the Carbonite piece pretty much matches his look there. Kind of nice cracks inside the Carbonite there. Looks really good. You can see the side paneling, very detailed. Same for the other side. And we have these bars that we can clip things onto so that we can actually clip this onto the Slave one. I'll show you that in a moment. And inside, you're going to see a bunch of little things stamped in there with text. And then two little rods for Han to grab onto so that you can actually keep him inside the Carbonite piece, which is pretty cool. I always loved that about this particular LEGO piece when it came out back in 2010. So looks amazing. Not quite, one-to-one on that, but still about as perfect as you can ask for a LEGO set. Love this. This is pretty easily a top 10 LEGO Star Wars set or build of all time, which means there's practically nothing bad to say about it, which is a good thing. I mean, it's definitely optimal for a LEGO Star Wars set to be as perfect as this one, but those are few and far between, unfortunately. But man, I mean, I think most people, if they have this, they love it, and if they don't have it, they want it, especially with Book of Boba Fett out now. This thing has become even more highly desirable, fetching about $500 new in box, maybe getting close to $600 at this time. It's an expensive set to go out and get, but definitely worth having for your display as a beautiful build. And speaking of display, it comes with a display stand, and on this display stand there is a plaque at the bottom, which looks just like any other UCS plaque down there with a lot of information about the Slave one, and it's at a slight angle. And I'm not going to keep it on the stand for the entirety of the review, but I do want to show it up front because I think it's one of the coolest aspects about this set. When it's on its stand, to me, the display aspect of this set is almost second to none. Very few sets come this close to looking this perfect with their display stand for a UCS model. I love this so much. So let's talk a little bit about the exterior look of this Slave 1. It's got a lot of its armor plating done in the dark red color, which is now a problem. When the set was released, it wasn't quite the problem it is today, but as this set has aged, a lot of these pieces become brittle, and that makes them susceptible to breaking. So if you go out and you buy one of these after watching this review, just know, be very, very careful putting together these dark red pieces. And I'm saying that because in my experience, one of these big red curve pieces completely snapped and broke. I had to order new ones from Bricklink. And so if you are putting this together, take your time. Don't apply too much pressure, especially on the dark red pieces, as LEGO has apparently fixed that issue. Modern day, into the late 2010s, it was still a problem though. And so you do have to keep that in mind with this particular set. It's, I guess, maybe the only bad thing I really have to say about it. Going down the front of the model here, you've got a lot of dark green mixed in with sand green near the bottom. There's some sticker usage, like this little sticker here to add a little bit of light gray. I feel like this one's a little bit unnecessary and almost to me takes away from the look of it. Why not just use a 1x2 light gray tile here and a 1x2 dark green tile here. I feel like that might look better than a sticker in that particular spot. Other than that, we've got some very nice stickers that add some contouring to the front of the cockpit piece. Looks great there. And then down the side, they use more studs here, so you can see nice and tiled off on the top, studs on the side. Creates a very nice Lego look to it. That's something they definitely strive for, is to add studs in different places to make it look a lot like a Lego set and less like a perfectly smooth model, which in this particular set looks great. And then down here, we've got our twin laser cannons, which move in tandem, so you can move them 360 degrees and they spin completely together. You can see they'll kind of clip on these here if you're not careful or pull it away or whatever, but they do move 360 degrees just with a small hiccup there. I love them. I think they look great and they move just really easily, so no problems with those. You can see the siding looks pretty good, and then we have our stabilization fins, which move with the model, so you see them flat when you move it flat, and then of course they just stay horizontal to the ground, which is one of those things that helps make the Slave one look so great. And they are practically the same on both sides, so you can see a great design for those, and also strong enough not to sag. So you can see when we move back here, they look like they're pretty well held up, maybe a slight bit of sagging to that one, but generally I think they have ended up looking pretty good. You can see with my model that's been on display for years and years, it is just fine. So yeah, not something you really should have to worry about, and that's what the bottom of them look like. Not quite as detailed as the top, but overall a very good design. You can see some sticker usage on this side to add in some light gray, which is not mirrored on the other side. Some black kind of in there, looks very good. The top of this has quite a few stickers, adding in some dark red and other details up there, which do look very good. Some very thin black lines there. Just a nice attention to detail on this set that has definitely not gone unnoticed amongst Star Wars fans. So on the back, we have a lot of our thrusters, and surprisingly to me, this is actually a long-range sensor array and not a thruster, at least from one of the cross-section book pages that I found on the internet, so that was pretty cool to find out. And the rest of the back detailing is just spectacular. You can see the stand there. That's how it looks when it's there. It's not really blocking anything important or any functions that the back does. The back doesn't really have any functions. It just has the spot for the stand. But yeah, this thing looks crazy good even from behind. And really, the amount of detail for this is really good because you can display it on an open table, coffee table or whatever, where it can be seen from 360 degrees. So for an adult collector who might just have this out on their coffee table in their living room or whatever, this thing ends up looking really good from all angles, even if someone's able to get a peek at the back, because Lego's gone through the trouble to detail it and make it look just as good as the front. And before we get into what you can do with figures in this set, we do have a couple of hidden compartments on the paneling here. We can actually pull these out, and you'll see we actually have some extra laser cannons on the ship's right side, our left side. And on the other side, we actually have a really cool missile. So I think if we pull this down first and then out, the missile won't get caught. But if you're not careful, the missile can get caught in there, and you'll see it can bend back, and then you can just bend it back when you pull it out. But there's a missile and extra like laser cannon and things in there. So that's really cool to see. I love the way it looks like that. I mean, obviously I'd rather display it with everything closed, but yeah, it's definitely an option for people to display it like that if they want to have that extra detail showing through. Here we have the boarding ramp for the Slave 1, and as you can see, there's a door here, and you can even see they detailed underneath that. It looks so crazy cool. I mean, you really wouldn't think they would, and they did. It looks insane. But this door actually does open up, and you can see there's kind of a walkway back into there. There's not really much else going on in there. You can't actually really store any figures in there, but you'll notice a clip on the roof here, and that clip is for Han Solo and Carbonite. So we can bring in our Carbonite piece and clip him up there, no problem at all, and then it will just close right back up and into the body of the ship. Pretty insane that they've gone through that level of detail for that function, because really you could just clip him up in there, and I think most people would have been fine with it, but really they went the extra mile, and that is something that is very appreciated on this set. And then finally we get to the cockpit, which can be opened very easily by lifting slightly up and then pulling away. But on the inside of here, we have Boba's seat and a bunch of control panels in here. One, a pretty old control panel design. Haven't seen that in a while. And we have more control panels on the left and the right, as well as clips for blasters for Boba. So we actually have one already clipped in there. You can clip his other on the other side if you'd like. And then this also rotates with the ship. So you can have Boba in his seat, and he will actually rotate with the rest of the ship, which is exactly what happens in the films, obviously, so that's kind of important. So that's what Boba Fett looks like inside of the cockpit, ready to fly off. It looks incredible with him in there. Unfortunately, there is not any more minifig space like you would see in like the Book of Boba Fett. I think we finally got to see the rest of the interior of the Slave One, but that is not represented here. I couldn't possibly have expected it to be, and at that, with like the space they're working with, I just don't see a world in which we ever get a UCS Slave 1, at least at this scale, which is pretty close to minifig scale, if not at minifig scale, with the rest of that detailing. I think this is about as much as you could expect in that department, is just having the spot for Boba Fett there. The rest of the space is just used for structure and stuff, and without the structure, the whole thing would fall apart, so it doesn't necessarily work like that. Like I said earlier, this is easily one of the best LEGO Star Wars sets ever, and it gets a perfect 10 out of 10 score from me. $200 back in the day was a more than fair price for what you're getting. One of the best Boba Fett minifigs ever included. The Stormtrooper, Bespin Guard, Han Solo, also very nice additions, but the set itself, of course, being the highlight, it steals the show. A perfect build of the Slave One, or at least as near perfect as you can expect out of a LEGO model. And while it's unfortunately worth about $500 today, for those willing and able to pay the price, you are going to have a great time, as long as you don't break your dark red bricks. While it would be nice for LEGO to re-release or remake this set, given the Book of Boba Fett and the appearance of the Slave One in the Mandalorian, at this current point in time, early 2022, there's nothing known or on the horizon that we know about for a remake or re-release of the UCS Slave One, which is a crying shame, because this is just such a coveted set nowadays. So let me know what you guys think about it in the comments section below. If you enjoyed, leave a like. If you're new to the channel, subscribe, and you can check out more LEGO Star Wars set reviews on the end screen now. Peace out.